Welcome to the Deep Dive, where we plunge into fascinating topics and extract the most compelling insights just for you. Today, we're heading back to Middle-earth, looking at a story many of us know and love. J.R.R. Tolkien's The Hobbit. It's a classic, obviously. But what if there was an edition that actually let you peek behind the scenes, see how it all came together?
You really hit on something important there. For this deep dive, we are focusing specifically on the enhanced edition of The Hobbit. And it's so much more than just the story of Bilbo. It's like a treasure chest, really. It gives you these incredible insights into Tolkien's whole creative process. We're talking his own drawings, his original notes from the manuscript, even the history of how it got published. All these details, they just bring the genius behind it to life.
Okay, so our mission today, then, is to go beyond just the adventure plot. We want to uncover the layers behind this iconic story. We'll look at Bilbo's journey, sure, but also how Tolkien actually built this world, the creative choices he made, and maybe why it still clicks with people so much. Think of it as a shortcut to understanding its enduring appeal. Okay, let's unpack this. Right from the very start, this edition hints at its own, well, complicated history, doesn't it?
It absolutely does. So The Hobbit, the first publication, was September 21st, 1937. Then, for the 50th anniversary, Christopher Tolkien, his son, he suggested including some of his father's art that hadn't really been seen much. You know, unpublished illustrations, even some actual pages from the manuscript drafts. And that decision, it kind of transformed the book. It wasn't just the story anymore. It was almost like a historical document of its own making.
Yeah.
A real window into Tolkien's mind.
So we're not just reading the final version, we're actually seeing bits of the process, the changes and the evolution. That's pretty amazing.
Precisely.
Right.
We actually have some surviving draft pages from the very first chapter, An Unexpected Party. And what's really special is one sheet has the first ever sketch of Thor's map. Imagine seeing that, the very first lines, the first idea for a map that became so famous. It's a direct link right back to where the magic started.
And the illustrations themselves, they must tell a story too. This edition, it has so many of Tolkien's own pictures and maps: Wilderland, the Lonely Mountain, Bag End, Rivendell, the Trolls, the Misty Mountains. But here's where it gets really interesting.
Yeah.
Tell us about that Mirkwood picture from Chapter 8. It had a bit of a journey itself, right?
Oh, it certainly did. The Mirkwood illustration, the one with a really dense, dark forest, it was in the first British and American editions, but then it got dropped for a while. Luckily, it was put back in later editions like this one. But what's really fascinating is where it came from. That drawing was actually redrawn from an even earlier painting. And that original painting, it showed Tornafún for the Silmarillion. It had the elves Beleg and Gwyndor in it, among the roots.
Wow, so he reused it, but changed it. Was that just like saving time, or was there a deeper connection he saw between those dark forests and his different stories?
It's probably a bit of both, but I think it leans more towards the connection. Tolkien's world wasn't static, it was always growing, always being refined in his mind.
Mm-hmm.
So in the Mirkwood version, the elves are gone, and instead you see a big spider, more mushrooms. It fits that specific danger better, but wait, it gets even better. Much later, he actually thought about using it a third time. He labeled a version Fangorn Forest for a Lord of the Rings calendar.
Mm-hmm.
Apparently, he even joked about the problems, like Beleg having a sword and wearing shoes when he was supposed to be a hobbit in that version.
Mm-hmm.
It just shows how connected his visual ideas were. This core image served different evolving purposes, but always carried that deep symbolic weight of the dark ancient forest.
That's incredible. It really shows how layered his creation was. And speaking of details, wasn't there something about the moon runes on Thor's map, some kind of publishing issue that almost changed things?
Yes, there was a bit of a fuss behind the scenes there. Tolkien's original idea, his clear intention, was for the moon runes to be printed on the back of the map. You were supposed to hold it up to the light to read them, like a magical reveal. He even wrote, "For moon runes, hold up to a light," right on his drawing. But the publisher, Charles Firth, he objected. He thought readers would just, turn the page over instead of looking through it. And then apparently there was a misunderstanding on the part of the blockmaker. The end result was the runes got printed in reverse, right on the front of the map. Tolkien wasn't exactly thrilled. He felt it rather spoils it. That's fascinating. A small production choice kind of undermining the intended magic. It really shows the practical side of getting such a detailed vision into print. It absolutely does. And it shows how much Tolkien cared about those details. Even the hidden runes were part of the experience he wanted for the reader. Sometimes, though, external things just get in the way.
Okay, let's shift focus to our main character, Bilbo Baggins. We know he's a hobbit, but how does the book, maybe with extra notes in this edition, actually describe hobbits?
Tolkien paints a really clear picture. Hobbits are little people, about half our height, definitely smaller than dwarves, and no beards. That's important. They tend to get a bit fat around the stomach, love bright colors like green and yellow, and famously no shoes. Their feet have tough, leathery soles and thick brown hair. They've got long, clever fingers, good-natured faces, and they love a good laugh, especially after dinner, which they have twice a day, apparently. The enhanced edition notes pretty much confirm this consistent picture, peace-loving, very grounded folk.
Ah, 2 dinners a day. That sounds like the life. And Bilbo himself, he's not just any hobbit. He's got this split personality almost, right?
He really does. Bilbo isn't just conflicted. He sort of embodies that universal pull between staying comfortable and answering some kind of call. You got the Baggins side, respectable, hates adventures, totally predictable, loves his comfy hobbit hole. But then there's the Tookish side. He gets that from his mother, Belladonna Took. Her father, the old Took, was known for fireworks, a bit eccentric. So that Tookish part of Bilbo is seen as a bit queer, and it secretly longs for adventure. It's like the blueprint for the reluctant hero, that internal battle between sticking with the known and stepping out.
And that battle gets thrown right in his face when Gandalf shows up for that unexpected party. It seems chaotic, but Tolkien must have planned that scene carefully. How does this edition maybe shed light on how he used that moment to set up Bilbo's conflict?
The notes do suggest Tolkien was very precise in setting the tone there. Gandalf's arrival, and then this just stream of 13 dwarves pouring in Dwalin, Balin, Keely, Feely, all the way to Thorin Oakenshield himself. It's funny, yes, but it's also a deliberate assault on Bilbo's cozy Baggins world. It forces that buried Tookish side to wake up. And Gandalf is so insistent, calling Bilbo the burglar, or expert treasure hunter, when he says there is a lot more in him than you guess and a deal more than he has any idea of himself. That's the key moment. It's Gandalf basically declaring Bilbo's hidden potential, pushing him towards something he wants to run from, but maybe deep down actually desires.
Talk about being thrown into the deep end. So the journey starts, and bam, almost immediately, trolls. Bert, Tom, and William. His first real test, and he's nearly cooked. What does this first adventure tell us about the style Tolkien was going for, maybe informed by the notes?
Well, looking at early drafts mentioned in the notes, that troll encounter really sets Tolkien's unique tone. It's genuinely dangerous, but also kind of funny. Bilbo's first attempt at burglary, trying to pick William's pocket, it goes totally wrong. And the trolls arguing about how to cook the dwarves, it's absurd. Gandalf's trick, mimicking their voices until the sun comes up and turns them to stone, it shows that cleverness, wit, not just fighting, is going to be vital. It's a rough start for Bilbo, but it also shows Gandalf knows what he's doing, in his own strange way.
And it pays off practically, too, finding those elvish swords in the troll's loot. Orc wrist, goblin cleaver, Glamdring for Gandalf, and that knife for Bilbo, Sting.
Right. From there, though, they reach Rivendell, a much nicer spot.
Definitely. After the trolls, Rivendell, the last homey house, is a welcome break. And that's where Elrond, the wise elf lord, comes in. He looks at Thor's map and finds those hidden moon runes we talked about. And those runes give them that vital clue. The secret door on the Lonely Mountain only opens on Durin's Day, in the last week of autumn, when the setting sun and the last moon of autumn are in the sky together. That reliance on old texts, hidden clues, it's such a Tolkien thing. How does The Hobbit use these moments not just to move the plot, but to build that sense of a deep history? What do the notes say about his thinking there?
It's absolutely central to how he built his world. Remember, Tolkien was a language expert, a philologist. He knew the power of old words in history. So the moon runes aren't just a puzzle piece. They hint at this much older, deeper world stretching out beyond Bilbo's little adventure. The manuscript notes show how carefully he worked out these linguistic bits. It emphasizes that Middle-earth isn't just some made-up place. It has layers of forgotten stories, hidden knowledge. Elrond, reading the runes, instantly links Bilbo's quest to that bigger, ancient history.
Crucial information indeed, but then it's off into the Misty Mountains and things get nasty again.
Absolutely. The Misty Mountains are tough. It's cold, windy, rocks are falling. And it's eerily quiet sometimes. Feely and Keely find what looks like a dry cave, a good shelter. But surprise, it's a trap. The back of the cave opens up and it's a goblin tunnel. They're captured very quickly by the great goblin and his guards.
And this is where Bilbo gets separated, right? Leading to maybe the most famous part of the book, Riddles in the Dark.
Yes. In the confusion, Bilbo falls, gets knocked out briefly, and when he wakes up, he's alone in the pitch dark. He's feeling around on the tunnel floor, and his hand touches this tiny ring of cold metal. Just pockets it, almost without thinking. Doesn't realize, of course, what a massive turning point that is, not just for him, for everyone. Soon after, he meets Gollum and they play that desperate riddle game for Bilbo's life. Bilbo's cleverness really comes through, especially with the final question, what have I got in my pockets is? He then discovers the ring makes him invisible, and crucially, he decides to go forward, not back. That's a huge step for his courage.
Wow. From the dark tunnels, they eventually escape the goblins and reach Mirkwood, which sounds, if anything, even worse.
Mirkwood is definitely treacherous, and this is where Gandalf leaves them, with that one critical warning, do not leave the back.
You could.
They do. They get lured off by lights, run out of food, they waste arrows shooting at deer. Then Bomber falls in the enchanted stream and goes into a magical sleep. Things get desperate. And then come the giant spiders.
Right. This is where Bilbo really has to step up, isn't it? Not as a fighter, but using his wits.
Absolutely. This is Bilbo's first major moment, completely on his own, really earning that burglar title. He uses his courage, that elvish knife, which he names Sting right after fighting the spiders, and of course the ring's invisibility. He manages to free the dwarves from the spider webs. And what's key here, as you said, is it's his ingenuity, his cunning that saves them, not brute strength. It really proves Gandalf right about there being more to Bilbo than meets the eye.
They escape the spiders, but Mirkwood isn't done with them yet. Next up, wood elves.
Correct. Still lost and exhausted, the dwarves get enchanted again, this time by the wood elves. These elves are cautious, maybe a bit suspicious of strangers, and they definitely don't trust dwarves historically. Thorin gets captured first, then all the others. They all end up in the Elven King's dungeons. Except Bilbo, of course, thanks to the ring.
Which leads to another brilliant, maybe slightly crazy Bilbo plan. The barrels. He's really becoming quite the planner.
He is. Invisible Bilbo does some scouting around the Elven King's palace. He finds the stream running under it, the water gate, and the wine cellars. He hears the guards talking about fluting empty wine barrels down the river, and click, the idea forms. Pack the dwarves into the empty barrels, float them out. It's risky, desperate, but ingenious. The only near disaster is he almost forgets about himself. He has to make a mad scramble to cling onto the last barrel as it's shoved into the current. A very close call.
What a way to travel. After escaping the Elven King, they finally reach Lake Town. What's the reception like there?
It's huge. The people of Lake Town get incredibly excited. They remember the old songs about the king under the mountain returning. They see Thorin and the dwarves as the fulfillment of prophecy. There's a lot of cheering and support. The master of Lake Town, though, he's much more practical, maybe cynical. He's thinking about trade, tolls, potential profit. Less about ancient legends, a nice contrast.
And then finally, the Lonely Mountain itself. What happens when they actually get there?
They make their way around to the western side, find the area described on the map, but they can't find the secret door. Days pass, they're trying keys, banging on the rock. Nothing works. Frustration builds. The dwarves start grumbling again, kind of putting the pressure back on Bilbo, their official burglar. Once again, it pushes Bilbo to take the lead into danger.
And he does. He goes into the mountain. That first encounter with Smaug, it's legendary. You can almost feel his awe and terror, and that treasure, the lust, the glory, it really affected him.
That's a perfect way to put it. Tolkien is brilliant at showing the psychological power of that much gold. Bilbo, terrified as he is, creeps down the tunnel alone. And then he sees it Smaug, asleep on this unbelievable mountain of treasure. It's breathtaking, but also, as Tolkien hints, dangerous. That dragon sickness. Bilbo's bold move is stealing just one golden cup. Seems small, but it instantly wakes Smaug up in a rage. Dragons know their hoard.
But then Bilbo actually talks to Smaug. Riddles again. He gets information out of him. It makes you think, doesn't it? How many little conversations might have huge consequences we don't foresee?
Absolutely. And it's so telling that Bilbo, the Hobbit, who loves words, uses riddles and flattery, not a weapon. He plays on Smaug's arrogance and extracts that vital piece of information, the bare patch on his left breast. Smaug unfortunately gets a parting shot in, realizing he was talking to a burglar who came with ponies. Ponies take some catching, and so do burglars. Then breathes fire down the tunnel, makes Bilbo seriously regret being clever. And all this time, that little thrush is listening nearby, hearing about the bare spot.
So Bilbo's clever chat inadvertently gives Bard the key to killing Smaug.
Exactly. Smaug flies off in a fury to punish Lake Town for helping the dwarves. A watchman gives a warning, so the town isn't completely unprepared, but Smaug causes devastation. Then Bard the bowman, remembering old tales and guided by that thrush who overheard Bilbo, fires his black arrow right into the vulnerable spot. Smaug crashes down, destroying much of Lake Town in his fall, but he's dead. Bilbo's conversation, his small act, directly led to the dragon's end and changed everything for Lake Town and the mountain.
An amazing chain of events from one hobbit's words. So, Smaug is gone. What do the dwarves do now? Claim the treasure.
Thorin's first move is telling. He immediately orders the dwarves to build a wall, fortify the main gate of the mountain. His focus shifts instantly to defending the treasure. He sends ravens calling for his cousin Dane and reinforcements from the Iron Hills. And that possessiveness, that dragon sickness, really takes hold. He refuses to share any of the treasure, even with the people of Lake Town who lost everything because of Smaug's attack, which was provoked by the dwarves' quest.
Wow. And amidst all this greed and tension, Bilbo steps up again, morally this time. It raises a big question. He's finally achieved the goal, but he chooses peace over treasure, even going against Thorin. What stands out to you about that moment?
It's Bilbo reaching his peak, I think. He sees the bigger picture in a way. Thorin, blinded by gold, can't. He volunteers for watch duty, then slips out of the mountain at night. He goes to the camp of the men of Lake Town and the Wood Elves, and he gives them the Arkenstone, the heart of the mountain, the one gem Thorin desires above all else. He gives it to Bard and the Elven King as a bargaining chip, something to force Thorin to negotiate and avoid war. It's an incredibly brave, selfless act. He's risking Thorin's wrath, maybe even his share of the treasure, for peace. It shows how far he's come from the Hobbit who just wanted his handkerchief. He's acting like a true leader, ethically.
It really shows his growth. He understands value beyond gold. And just when things look like they might explode, Gandalf reappears, doesn't he?
He does, right in the nick of time, as always. And his favorite words are to praise Bilbo. There is always more about you than anyone expects. Classic Gandalf. He tries to mediate, but events are already moving fast.
Right, because Dane's dwarves arrive, ready to fight for Thorin, and then the Battle of Five Armies breaks out.
Exactly. Suddenly, it's not just dwarves versus men and elves. Goblins and wargs attack from the mountains, forcing an alliance against the common enemy. It's a huge, chaotic battle. Things look grim until the eagles arrive, turning the tide. And Thorin, finally shaking off the worst of the dragon sickness, leads a charge out of the mountain in shining armor. A final heroic stand, though he's mortally wounded.
What an epic climax. After all that, Bilbo can finally go home. What's the return journey like? Does the book mark the passage of time?
Yes, the return journey feels much quicker, but the book does note the seasons changing. They travel back with Gandalf, stopping again at Beorn's house in Rivendell. They left Lake Town around summer, faced Smaug in late autumn, battles in winter, left Beorn's in the spring, and finally, Bilbo gets back to the Shire the following summer. A whole year has passed. And the homecoming. Hilarious. He arrives to find his hobbit hole being auctioned off. His relatives, the Sackville Bagginses, are measuring his rooms, assuming he's dead. Presumed dead, the sign says.
The perfect Baggins ending in a way, but this enhanced edition, it also adds that crucial link to The Lord of the Rings, specifically about the ring, doesn't it?
It does. And it's quite chilling when you know what comes next. The later material included touches on the ring's growing power over Bilbo. It mentions his 111th birthday party, where he uses the ring to dramatically disappear. And Gandalf's worry becomes clear. Bilbo calls the ring, "my precious." He feels it's like an eye looking at me. He can't bear to be without it, constantly fiddling with it in his pocket. That struggle to leave it behind for Frodo, even though he wants to, it shows the ring isn't just a magic invisibility trick. It has this subtle, corrupting influence. It perfectly sets the stage for the much darker story to follow.
And what an incredible journey overall. Bilbo starts as this respectable hobbit who wants nothing to do with adventures and becomes this courageous, resourceful burglar who faces trolls, goblins, spiders, a dragon, and even mediates peace talks. His Tookish side definitely won, didn't it? Though I bet the Baggins side was very glad to be back in his armchair by the fire.
Absolutely. It's really a masterclass from Tolkien. A deeply personal story of one hobbit's growth, but with huge consequences for the wider world he was building. It plants all those seeds for The Lord of the Rings. And this enhanced edition with the art and notes, it just lets you appreciate the sheer depth of that creative process even more. You see the layers, the connections. It reminds you how every little detail fits into this vast, coherent mythology.
It really does. A true deep dive into a classic. So maybe something to think about as we finish. How often do seemingly small, reluctant people end up having the biggest impact when things get tough? And how can tiny things, like a little gold ring, hold such immense unforeseen power? What unexpected parties might just be around the corner for you, waiting to reveal courage you didn't know you had?